Andrea Proeber with Great Expectations Realty, and we are here with Kevin Sheilley today, and he is the president of the CEP. Can you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what you do here?
Sure. So the CEP is the Chamber and Economic Partnership. We are the Chamber of Commerce for the Ocala Metro, as well as the Economic Development Organization, the economic development leader for the area. I get the great privilege of leading our team here as we seek to make our community a more prosperous one.
That is awesome. So, okay, I do have a question myself personally before we get into the round of questions everybody is wondering. So how come ours is called CEP as opposed to Chamber of Commerce in like other areas?
Absolutely. So the CEP was formed in October of 2012. It was a result of a merger between the Chamber of Commerce and the Economic Development Council at that time. So our roots actually go all the way back to 1887 and the founding of the Ocala Board of Trade. July 22nd, 1887 to be exact.
I know your history.
But we're the CEP, and part of it, and that's really important because it reflects how we operate in our community. If you were here in 08, 09, 10, you know, our community really struggled to come out of the Great Recession.
Yes.
We hadn't diversified the economy. We were really focused on one thing, which was home building. And
I was a realtor then.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So, you know,
it was painful.
And some key business leaders of their own volition said, look, we can't keep doing what we've been doing and expect it to change.
Right.
So how do we change? What do we need to do? And so they went and looked at a number of what they viewed as successful cities around the country. And what they found is that there was a singular voice for business in each of those communities. And they said, we need to do that. Hey, I write checks for the chamber and I write checks for the EDC, but I don't really know what I'm getting for that. If I was a new company coming to town, who would I call? And they begin to realize, well, do I call the EDC? Do I call the chamber? Do I call the city? Do I call the county? Do I call this group? So they really began the effort to merge all that into one entity. And so the CEP was formed because it was a merger of these two entities.
Wow.
They got the city and the county to disband their economic development efforts.
Wow.
So that we truly had that singular voice. There was one group doing economic development, one voice for the business community.
That's huge.
And it became the opportunity, and this will make sense. The challenge, I came in December, right after the merger, was, look, we don't want to just be a place that took two things, screwed them together and said, okay, we're new.
Right.
We want our chamber to look like what a chamber should look like for the 21st century. So that's why we do so many things very differently than the traditional chamber.
It seems like a lot of layers of cooperation in this town.
Tremendous. I mean, one of the things I think that has made Ocala and our community so successful in recent years is that partnership piece. It's not just how we've been able to partner the business community with local government, but how well the city of Ocala and Marion County work together, how well everyone works with the school system, how well the school system and the College of Central Florida work together. All these levels of partnership with CareerSource, with all these other entities, really reflects this idea of partnership, that when we work together, we're all going to be more successful.
That's absolutely true. Our son just graduated high school and he graduated with an associate's degree from CEP. It was phenomenal, really, really phenomenal. So what about you personally? What do you think is the best thing about living in Ocala?
Oh man, that is a hard question. Don't start off with an easy one.
I tried to lead into it.
You know, why wouldn't someone love living in Ocala? I mean, it really is, it's kind of the Goldilocks spot. We're not too big that you can't get to things that are here. We're not too small that we don't have the things that you want. We're just right. And you know, we're at that, if you want the beach, you can be at the Gulf in 45 minutes. You can be at the Atlantic an hour and a half. But we really don't have to worry about hurricanes. That's really not an issue for us.
Really the best of all worlds.
All worlds. I mean, you know, you have everything you want here, but if you need Orlando or you need Tampa or you need Jacksonville, they're all an hour and a half or so away. I mean, it's all those good things, but really everything you need is here. And you can get to it. And I guess the last thing, which to me is always important, is uniquely in Florida, we're a real town. So many Florida cities are made up. They're not real places. To anyone outside the state looking,
don't tell the
we're sorry but you're going to recognize that historic downtowns were built in the 90s, and that's 1990s. Ocala's a real place with real history, and you can feel that, and I think it gives our town some real authenticity.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of small businesses here. So, I mean, what would you, going back into the CEP, what would you tell a small business owner about joining the CEP and joining into that to create more commerce and everything for the small town?
It really goes, we're going to go back to that partnership word. One of the things that separates us from many chambers is we don't have any members. There are 0 members at the CEP, but there are over 1,500 partners. Those are businesses, and they're not paying dues, they're making an investment. And when you make an investment as a business, you should expect a return on that investment. So everything we do is about how do we help a business earn a return on investment. So what I would tell a small business is, hey, we want you to understand that this is about return on investment. So we want you to come to our CEP 101 so that you can learn the ways to earn that return on investment, and we want to help you take advantage of those. And if at some point you're not earning that return, we want to know. And if we can't help you get there, then you shouldn't be investing in the CEP.
Right. I think anybody, I mean, as a small business owner myself, obviously there are so many things that you guys offer as far as the classes and the education, even with as much pivoting as we've done lately with the coronavirus and everything. It just seems like there's still so many opportunities that you guys have really created with the chamber. So it's really great.
Good.
So what about those that are thinking about moving to Florida? If they know nothing of Florida, aside from that we get hurricanes, what would you tell them about Ocala?
Well, again, we've already talked a lot of that, but Ocala is a place, it's growing. We currently have our population on the last numbers, which would be June of 2019, right at 370,000 people.
Yes.
When we get the next census numbers in, we expect to be 370, 374, maybe it's high as 375, whatever we get on it. Moving to 400,000 in the next few years, but we're spread out. We tend to be, and the last numbers were one of the top 26 growing metros in the nation.
That's fantastic.
And so we're continuing to see growth. We're seeing growth because we're adding jobs.
Yes.
We're adding jobs that are across a wide variety of industries. So no matter what you're doing, if it's in logistics or manufacturing or healthcare or technology, services, you can find opportunities here.
Well, as a realtor and property manager, I have to say that with all the employment opportunities and growth, many are commenting on the significant lack of homes. So kind of what we call workforce housing.
Right.
And I think you mentioned that there's an article coming out specifically about that. Why is that such a topic right now?
I think one, it's a topic everywhere. Affordable housing, and sometimes we say affordable housing, people think low income or low income,
right.
And that's not what we're talking about. When we're saying affordable, we mean that people can afford, and this is really people who have jobs, they have good jobs, and the cost of living in Ocala, if I was going to tell anyone, it's incredibly attractive. You can live well in the Ocala metro, but part of the, we talked earlier, in 05 and 06 we had this huge home building. And then 08 happened, and then we didn't build any houses.
For like a decade.
And so now we're back, I think we'll build 3,000 homes this year. We're getting back in the right numbers, but it's just going to take time, yet the population continues to grow.
Right.
So, part of the reason is supply and demand. People wanting to buy houses, people are wanting to be here, building enough houses to meet that demand. And then I think the other piece is we've been able to grow so much where people who maybe in the past couldn't afford a home now can. We've really been able to address a lot of those issues. But again, that's a supply and demand issue. There's some, you mentioned our magazine here at the CEP is called Network.
Right.
And the feature story is about housing.
Yes.
And important, very important.
I think so.
But I think you're getting ready to see there is a lot of some really targeted construction. The West Oak project that the city is supporting, it's a private developer at the former Pine Oaks golf course, but that's 1,200 homes in that target market.
Right.
What Ken Colan's getting ready to build at his new development called Kalesa is...
I did have something about that.
Well, all right.
Huge.
We'll talk
all
more
the
about
billboards up and everything all
Yeah.
over town is just huge, and of course you can actually see there's progress being made. So that's kind of exciting to see that development.
Really exciting. 5,000 homes.
Yeah. That's huge. And I don't think, I mean, we'll go ahead and get into it now because, we're there. So, but I mean, Kalesa is not just the homes. He actually wants to make it more attractive to kind of young families, millennials that like that walking to work kind of thing, and the walking trails and parks, and really have, the schools right there, and just have a much more, almost like a micro community.
Yeah, it's very, very walkable. You're going to have your main roads, and then there's a lot of tunnels and things to push cars off, so people and kids on bikes and all that great stuff. There's an employment center kind of there that they're looking for, those opportunities for people for employment. But it'll also host FAST, Florida Aquatics Swimming and Training.
Yes.
An amazing facility that they're building there.
Yes.
And I don't know that people recognize how significant a facility this is. It is 2 Olympic competition pools, 1 indoor, 1 outdoor.
Right.
They are extremely deep, which is based on, they're designed after the pools at the Beijing Olympics. In talking to USA Swimming, there's not another facility like this in the Eastern U.S.
Right.
They'll be able to host Olympic qualifiers there.
That is huge.
This is an incredible facility that's going to be here in our community for anyone to use.
Yeah. So my daughter is on the swim team with Ocala Aquatics, and I have unknowingly signed up for basically having to trek all over Florida to take her to swim competitions. And when you see the pools that other cities our size have, and then what we had, we were a little behind the times, and now we're just rocketing forward. So it's really, really exciting.
So they have that. They're creating their own private charter school. That'll be a part of that.
Interesting.
The Anna Academy. There's I think really interesting, a multi-denominational worship space that's there. There's a synagogue that'll be using that space. There's a Christian church that's going to be using that space. They're talking to others about it as well. So really, again, a really whole life live, work, play solution that's right off of 200 near all the existing shopping and restaurants and all those kind of things.
So it's going to be, it's obviously going to be amazing for the community. But considering that his target market basically is going to be those young families and everything, let's talk a little bit about the employment opportunities you kind of touched on already. But what are specifically those opportunities that are coming in? Why don't we talk about the WEC, the World Equestrian Center that's coming in? That's massive.
The WEC will be kind of like FAST, the largest equine competition facility we know in the Western Hemisphere. Quite frankly, I'm unaware of any that are larger anywhere else in the world.
And growing.
and growing. It is a phenomenal, I think you're looking at probably something close to $500 million being spent on this privately, on this facility. It has 4 indoor arenas, each of over 100,000 square feet. It has 2,600 permanent barn stalls. Everything is air conditioned. The barn stalls are air conditioned. The arenas are air conditioned. The tunnels connecting the stalls to the arenas are air conditioned. So your horse never has to go outside, or you. But there are 17 outdoor arenas, including the Grand Arena, which will seat over 10,000, the Derby Arena, which will seat 8, and then another one's around 2.
That's crazy.
There's a chapel on site, which is lovely. The First Hotel will have about 200 rooms, or almost 250 rooms. At 5-star is their goal with that. Boutique hotel. There's 300,000 square feet of Expo Hall space there.
Yes.
6 full-service restaurants on site, plus concessions at every competition space. So
there's really nothing in the county really. If you wanted to use an Expo Hall or convention center or anything like that, there's not at this juncture anything. So that will be amazing for the community as well.
And to suddenly have 300,000 square feet of that kind of space.
Go big or go home,
right? So that's going to be phenomenal. And of course, while it'll have every type of horse show you can imagine there and horse event, it will also be available to many other disciplines. And they want to see, especially in those expo halls where there could be trade shows or meetings or dinners and concerts and all of those kind of things happening.
Right. Well, it seems like not just on that side of town, we've got, of course, a lot going on over there with all of that, but we've also I've seen personally with our company, we see a lot of medical professionals coming in. So what have you seen with the medical professionals with the hospitals that are growing?
So we're so fortunate. We have 3 general care facilities Advent Health has one of their third largest hospital in their chain is here, as well as Ocala Health, which is part of HCA, the largest hospital company in the world. They have 2 hospitals here, Ocala Regional and West Marion. All 3 of those hospitals have been seeing, over the last few years, they've spent about $500 million expanding those facilities. Here's a little insider ballpark news for you.
Please, bring it.
Coming, when the shelter-in-place orders across the country came in place,
Right.
HCA stopped construction. Everyone stopped construction. Construction has restarted.
Yes.
Perhaps the first place within HCA that's happened
That's
is here
awesome.
at Ocala Regional West Marion. Some more big projects coming down along the way. Those hospitals alone represent nearly 6,000 employees. And you throw in our specialty hospitals that Encompass and at the Vines and the Centers and these other facilities, you really begin to see the scope. Healthcare is our largest employment area. It pays the highest average wages, no surprise. And growing. In fact, we have a new initiative here at the CEP called Sphere, which is all about how we continue to grow healthcare and all the other industries around that. So, in talking to our hospitals in particular, healthcare is big. We see it over the next decade almost doubling in size, which is pretty significant. So in other parts of the country where they're looking at hospitals closing and consolidating and ending services, we're expanding and adding rooms and adding facilities and adding beds.
Yeah, we do seem to have a lot more of Shands, which is our kind of neighbors to the north up there, UF, that seem to be popping up into town as well. So.
Yes.
So you seem to always be the man in the know for upcoming projects in Marion County. What's something you're really excited about? I know it's hard.
Oh my goodness. Well, we've talked about, Calessa, the World Equestrian Center. Yeah. Those are great. So many good things continue to happen downtown. Here on September 28th, the new Hilton Garden Inn downtown is going to open.
Yes.
We've been looking forward to that.
That's exciting.
Really good things there. The Riley Center and their expansion, our arts center, it's going to double in size, and that's fantastic. But at the end of the day, I love my industrial, and continuing to see the growth that we're having throughout our community on our industrial. Amazon has a new facility which just opened. Dollar Tree has a new facility which just opened, distribution center. That first phase is 500,000 square feet. The next phase, which they'll start construction on probably in another month, it's another 1.3 million square feet.
Okay. Try and put that into perspective, because in industrial you're like, okay, 1.3 million. You think of a regular warehouse, but perspective-wise, how big is that?
So that's there's an example I'll use locally. So if you've not been here, it's hard. But if you come into town, as you come in I-75, you'll see the new Amazon distribution center,
which is huge.
FedEx is next door to it. Chewy.com actually is right next door to it. AutoZone. Those are 4 huge facilities right together. This facility would be, if you take all 4 of those together, it's about the same size.
That is crazy. That is absolutely just crazy huge.
It's a big building.
So that's separated. That's down southwest Ocala, down in an area we call Marion Oaks, which is 484 I-75 basically. Right. So what else is coming in? Is it just going to be that, or is it going to be?
You're going to see that's really igniting a lot of growth in that area, and I think you'll see that over the next 18 months. You're going to see more industrial. We have 1,000 acres, 800 acres of industrial left there. There's also 300 acres of commercial on the north side, which is getting a tremendous number of looks, a lot of interest in that.
That's awesome.
There's other activity all happening down that corridor now. Commercial and tremendous amount of new homes being built.
Yes, absolutely.
That is a very popular area. One of the things in our magazine that talks about, one of our home builders said, every time they can find a lot in Marion Oaks, they buy it because they know as soon as they get the slab poured, they've got the house sold. So it's very, very popular. And I think you're going to see a lot happen in that corridor.
Yeah, it used to be, 10 years back during the recession and everything, we couldn't sell a lot. We couldn't give them away. Yeah. And to see that you can't hardly find a lot now, that's huge. It shows what kind of difference we're experiencing now. So that's kind of more in the southwest tip. I hear that the road, 49th Avenue, which is of course expanding quite a bit, is going to go right on through Marion Oaks and then kind of open up to 42, which is going to be opening up to the villages. Right. So how do you think that's going to affect those, again, that housing and that whole area?
Yeah, so a major priority project for us here at the CEP, and it is with the county and the city, is what we call the 49th Avenue corridor. This first phase will take it, well, by the end of 22, you should be able to drive on 49th from the southern end of Marion Oaks all the way north through Ocala up to 326.
Wow.
And that's really key. It opens up some key industrial property, which is always important. But what it also does is we need to, I-75 through Ocala, this is the busiest spot. We just got the new numbers, and 8 years ago, we had about 80,000 vehicles a day on I-75 in Ocala. We're now at 97.5.
Wow.
That's tremendous growth in 8 years, 7 years from when the time it was taken. We need to move local traffic off the interstate as much as we can. This road will help do that. It'll run parallel, move it off, but as it does that, then that's the opportunity for more homes, more supermarkets, more retail neighborhood services that need to be developed all up and down that corridor that people want and need near their homes.
Absolutely. We definitely need a Publix. Now, I say we because that's over where I live. So I drive that 49th every single day, if not multiple times a day. So yeah, you're preaching to the choir over here with that one. But it's interesting to open up even more. There's going to be so many job opportunities in that southwest section just with opening up to the villages as well, going further south. So really excited about that side of town. So we talked about the Kalesa, and we talked about the swim center that is opening up. So let's talk a little bit about the changes that we've seen this year with COVID-19. Obviously, we weren't expecting that.
Right. Wasn't anyone's game plan.
No, I look back at my videos from like, okay, all these goals for 2020. Yeah, those laughable now. But as you've seen those changes, if you could predict 5 years or 10 years down the road for Ocala, what would you want to see?
I think we're going to continue to see great growth. People continue to move in because we're not seeing that change.
Right.
Everyone stopped and held their breath at the 1st of April.
Yes.
And then people got back to living and said, wait a minute, if I'm going to have to live somewhere, I want to live where the weather's fantastic.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
Quite frankly, where the taxes are really low and the quality of life is really good. So I think over the next 5 years, continue to see fantastic growth downtown. We've got such momentum, and I think we're going to see that continue
Absolutely.
with new, in particular in the housing front. I think you're going to see some real housing things take place downtown. Continue to see diversification of our employment base. We'll see more of the big boxes like Amazon and Dollar Tree, but also we're seeing some really cool manufacturing things happening.
Right.
Hopefully in another week you'll hear us making an announcement about a new manufacturer in the medical device front.
I can hold off a week. It's okay. We can hold off a week.
But you've got the tease, and so it's a great company.
I'll let you know. Okay.
About 100 jobs, so
great.
we'll take those every day. Love those kind of projects.
Yes, absolutely.
Healthcare continuing to grow and diversify, which we love healthcare jobs. And then an area that we're seeing some real growth is in the technology sector. We've had several, and again, they're not huge employers, but they're coming in with 10 or 20 jobs, but with really high average wages. Right. We can do 3 or 4 of those a year, and 1 or 2 of those really takes off. Suddenly, we've really begun to continue to change the local economy.
As you're mentioning the wages, you had a goal, of course, of increasing the wages here, and of course, that's definitely a conversation right now because they are looking at the minimum wage being raised. So what are your thoughts? I mean, other people, they hear what our wages are here and they're like, oh, that's so low as compared to like New York City or something like that. But for us, because of our housing and everything, our low cost of living, I mean, how are you seeing the wages and where that's going?
Yeah, so one of the goals here, and I will tell you, 10 years ago, our wages were too low. They weren't competitive because of, again, it all comes back to supply and demand. It's always about supply and demand. But as we've been very intentional about how we grow our economy and where we've seen it, and I shared the other day, the average wage in our community is up about $10,000 over the last 8 years. And that's important, obviously, for a lot of reasons.
Yes.
But I think we're going to continue to see that. And what we do is we look at how do we compare next to our benchmarks. And we have 10 southeastern metros that we compare ourselves to who are comparable in size. And how do we rank compared to those? And what we've watched is we've gone from, so there's 11 communities altogether. We've gone from 11th of 11 to today we've moved up to 7 of 11.
That's amazing.
And we're continuing to tweak up. Now, we probably, because of who is in our peer group, probably won't be number 1 or number 2. But if we can get 3 or 4, then
That's saying something.
we're really making a difference. Those are great wages where people can have a real life. They can buy a home, they can buy a car, they can educate their children, they can take vacations, they can do all those things. And we're moving in that right direction. And so, we want to continue to watch that, we track that. How do you improve? Well, you measure and set goals, and so that's what we do.
So I'm going to have a shameless plug in here to finish with, but as most of you are aware, we're opening our branch office over in Denellen. So what about going down into 27 and going into that area and then going into Denellen? What are you seeing as far as growth over in that area?
It's funny. So with you in mind, I went to Denellen yesterday.
Did you?
I did.
Wow,
Denellen is part of the.
I was there yesterday.
Ocala Metro. It is the absolute best place. Great little town to go to. Rainbow Springs. Oh, what a jewel!
Yeah.
My favorite. Love. We've got a number of great springs here in the area, but Rainbow is just phenomenal. But in looking and talking and looking at some numbers, it continues to also see people wanting to move in, to take advantage. And whether that means they're moving in because they're working in Ocala, or what I also found a number of are people who are coming out of the Tempe area or coming out of the Orlando area, and they're like, look, my dollar goes so much further here, and I don't have to go sit in traffic. I can be here and I can have access to everything without having to pay for everything.
Right.
I was really kind of excited to see the numbers as we talk there. And, as I think you're going to see, its proximity to Marion Oaks is going to help for people who need those employment. And then World Equestrian Center is just going to spin off things off that entire western end of our county.
It's just kind of hitting that point right there with Denellen right in the center. So I'm very, very excited to see the changes that are going to happen there within the next few years, and have bought into it, obviously. So we'll see what happens. It's all very, very exciting. Thank you so much. I know you're super, super busy, and we really appreciate you
Always
giving
my
us
pleasure.
updates. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.